Esther made a decision about something in business a while back, and it was a long time coming and not an easy decision to make. But she felt it coming for a long time and knew it was the right decision for everyone involved and made the decision. And then she found herself wanting to explain a little bit why she made that decision. And then right in the middle of wanting to explain, she thought, if I go about explaining, then all of this decision will be for nothing. In other words, the decision was inspired, and going with the flow with the decision will continue to be inspired, and everyone involved in the equation will thrive as a result of making a decision, because when you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, you can't make a decision that's good for you that isn't good for somebody else too. But then if you find yourself trying to think it through the eyes of everybody that might be looking at it, so you find yourself wanting to defend or justify, now you've lost your connection, so all of that was for nothing. You want to find your connection and practice your connection and like your connection and want your connection and reach for your connection and be aware that you're not always going to be in your connection, but when you're not, just step into the shade. Don't make a big thing about it. Don't try to be perfect. Perfect isn't only being in alignment with Source. Perfect is step 1, step 2, step 3. That's perfect. And step 1 is contrast. And contrast is negative emotion. And that's perfect. And negative emotion is guidance. And that's perfect. How are you going to know what you want if you don't know what you don't want? But once you play with this a little bit and you show yourself that you can feel good anyway, because you were born to feel good, because your source feels good, because your future looks good. It's all good. You don't need to pinch yourself off from it by trying to make other people understand. These days, what's on Esther's mind a lot, because she's really getting the hang of this pointing business and this alignment business, and her guidance system is so, it alerts her in such the early stages that she's very sensitive to when her thoughts start wobbling. She rarely gets much momentum going that works against her. Like Jerry's old story, sitting in front of the fireplace, and when the log sparks and gets on your sweater, flick it off quick before it burns a hole. And so when you're sensitive to the way you feel, you can flick those off quick by turning your attention. So as you keep a pocket full of good feelings that you can turn to, as you know the power of meditation, which is quieting your mind and giving yourself that respite from any active, resistant thought, then you just become this, let's see, we're going to give you some really strong words. Words that you've never heard from us before. We're going to be so blunt with you, you're just not even going to believe how blunt we're being with you. We want you to demand of yourself that you feel good. And others might say, or you might even say, oh, that's frightening. Isn't that selfish? And we say it is. It is. It's aligned with self. Everyone has self-interest. Everyone has self-interest. But when you feel your way into truly what the interest of your true self is, which is always love and always uplift and always of value and always helpful and always clear-minded and always well-being, when you train yourself to that, one negative emotion at a time, it catches on. It catches on fast, and you don't find yourself questioning it. You don't find yourself in these deep moral dilemmas. You don't see something and wonder, well, maybe I'm wrong about that. Because once you find it, and then your inner being calls you as a cooperative component to it, and you see the benefit of it, you cannot deny what it feels like to be in concert with your source. You don't have to do much of that before you feel that and know that and never, ever, ever, ever forget that. Esther remembers she sat to meditate for the first time. They didn't know what they were doing. Someone very wise said, wear comfortable clothing and sit in a quiet room and focus on your breathing. And when your mind wanders, and it will, focus back on your breathing. And so Jerry and Esther went back to their apartment, and they were embarrassed to do this weird thing. They were business people. They weren't woo-woo people. And so they sat in the living room with an etagere between them and these big wing-back chairs. And Esther remembers sitting back, hoping that Jerry wasn't looking over, couldn't see. They set a timer. They'd put their bathrobes on. They pulled the drapes. They made the room dark. And Esther began focusing on her breathing. And right away, she felt detached from her physicality. She could not tell her nose from her foot. And oh, did that feel good? Complete detachment from anything except alignment, but she didn't know what that was. But she sure could feel the detachment from the residue. So the timer went off. Esther said, let's do it again. And Jerry's thinking, here we go. Because that's how Esther is. It's all or nothing with Esther. They set a timer for another 15 minutes, and once again, that delicious feeling of detachment, that feeling of no awareness of the chair beneath her, that feeling, whatever it was. And Esther remembers saying to Jerry, well, we'll tell you, then another 15 minutes. And she felt like something breathed her. It was like, she said, I felt like a billows, that air was being pushed into me and drawn out of me and into me and drawn out of me. And Jerry said, well, what do you think about it? And Esther said, I don't know, but I know it's good. I know it's good. It can't feel like that and not be. I know it's good. I know it's good. And so, don't you know, when you have that feeling of love come over you toward the doggy in the elevator, or toward your baby or your sister or your mother or your lover, don't you know it's good? When you feel that love, you know what that feeling of love is, don't you? We're not saying that you can maintain it for a long period of time, because they're human and they're human. But you know what that feels like. Do you know that feeling of clarity? I knew that. That feeling of clarity, that feeling of sureness. You know that feeling of sureness. You know what these feelings are. Your guidance system has been working all along. You just were asking for someone like us to point you toward what those things mean. And once you connect those dots so that you've got your own guidance system working, then you're never confused again. And it doesn't mean that you're running around in the world and you're trying to tell people that are doing that you should stop, or that are doing that you should stop, or that this is the way to think or feel. What you're running around doing is feeling what it feels like to be an extension of source energy in real time, connected to source energy, having this conversation with this person who is afraid. And so you don't join them in fearful thoughts. You stand in there knowing that they're all right, and you hold that space for them. And if you do it really well and really often, they'll know it too. That's why when you stood before Jesus dripping your illness, he could help you leave it as residue behind. Because he did not see your illness. He knew your wellness. He'd practiced that kind of alignment. He knew your wellness, and your illness was irrelevant to him, not known by him, not active in his vibration. And if you believed in what he was doing, and most did, that's why they were there, then for that moment in time, they joined that bag of marbles of wellness and left behind, even with the evidence of illness dripping from them. And then he said, go forth and tell no one. Because they'll talk you back in to the regurgitation and the reactivation and the continuation of this thing that is not necessary. You get what you think about, but you have to feel your way into your thoughts to really get a handle on which way you're going. Yeah. And nothing is ever wrong. Nothing's ever done. Can't get it wrong, and you can't get it done. And the reason you can't get it wrong is because it's never done. Something manifests, you don't like it, no big deal. When I feel what this, whatever it is, feels like, when I feel what this feels like, this manifestation feels like this, there's plenty of thoughts that you can remember that felt like that along the way. They have to go together. And that's why when you catch a glimpse of something that just feels like exhilaration, Esther on the segment of refreshment got a text from daughter Tracy and granddaughter Kate. They're at Taylor Swift. They are out of their minds. Esther has not been with them to Taylor Swift, but through osmosis over there in Miami, over the airwaves, she can feel the feeling of those large groups of people that are in absolute bliss all at once. Kate says, Grandma, it's life-changing. And Esther says, you go, girl. You go, girl. Anything that feels like that is tuned in, tapped in, turned on.